I will now show you how to knit this hat. I have used a wool yarn that will give 22 stitches for every 10 centimeters or 4 inches when using knitting needles size 3.5 millimeters. I have used a small circular needle size 3 millimeters. And this hat has a folding edge here, and it's folded on the outside and sewn to the hat here along this edge, and that way it gets a lining, as in double layers in the lower part. I will begin to cast on 128 stitches on a short circular needle size 3 millimeters. This loop is my first stitch. I stick my knitting needle through it. I want the edge of the hat to be elastic, so I cast on like this. I hold this way and I use my index finger underneath the yarn and up, twist so I get a loop around my index finger, knitting needle down to the tip of my index finger, up through the loop and let it go. Again, from underneath and up, twist, knitting needle on top, push down to the tip of my index finger, up through the loop, let go and tighten. And I will just keep going until I have 128 stitches. The first row I will purl. I keep my yarn over my index and middle finger like this, and I start at the tip of my index finger. I go underneath the yarn and I go through the stitch from under and up like this, and under the yarn again, same way back. I pick the yarn up, I bring it through the first stitch and I let it go over to my right needle, making sure it gets close to the last one here. So to the tip of my index finger, under the yarn, up through this stitch like this, back again under the yarn, pull it through the stitch and let it go. Make sure you don't pull too much on this needle, because then you'll just create a gap between the two needles here. So just keep purling without pulling too much on your right needle after letting the stitch go. So now I will continue to purl this row, and the next row I will knit. I'm now done knitting the two first row in the bottom color, and I'm ready to add my pattern color, which is white. When I start with a new color, I twist it around my thumb a couple times to secure it so I can get some tension on it and it is easy to start to knit with. And I just knit normal knit stitches, one whole row. I can let go of the yarn end now because the yarn is secured here in the stitches. So I just keep going the whole row, and after that I will begin to knit with both colors. So now I'm done with this first row with my pattern color, and I'm ready to start to knit my pattern and use both colors. When I knit with two colors, I always keep the bottom color over the index finger closest to me and the pattern color over my index and middle finger away from me. So no matter how you do it, just make sure that these two do not change places, because when you knit like this, one color will lie slightly on top of the other and be more prominent than the other, and if you switch, that will also switch, so your pattern will look uneven. So just try to remember to keep the same color closest to you and the same color the farthest away from you. And I will just keep knitting in a normal manner, only I will pick up whatever color I need to make my pattern. So now I will keep knitting my main pattern, and after that we will make the folding edge and the rest of the hat. And this is what it looks like on the back. Now I'm finished knitting my main pattern. After the last row of white here, I have knitted one row of bottom color, and after that I have purled 2 rows, and this will be my folding edge. And now I will knit one row where I will decrease by 4 stitches, and I will do that by knitting 2 together like this. I just take 2 stitches here, stick the needle through both at the same time, pick up the yarn and just knit it like a normal stitch, like this. This I will do in all 4 times on my way around this row. After I've done that, I will keep knitting around and around until I have knitted the same size as this on this size of the folding edge. So my work will be equally, it will have equal number of rows on each side of the folding edge. So when you fold it in half, it will overlap exactly. Okay. I hope you could make something out of that. Now I have knitted this far, and in the middle here you can see my folding edge, which is knitted as 2 rows in purl stitches, and on each side of the folding edge I have about the same amount of rows, so that when I fold this piece under and I lay it flat, then you can see that they are about the same length. So now it's time for the next step, and then I turn my hat inside out like this, and I start to knit the rest of the hat with this part inside out. I take the first stitch loose off just to get the working yarn over to my right needle, and I just start to knit. On this row I will also increase by 8 stitches. And when I do, I make one by picking up the yarn between 2 stitches, and I put it on my left needle like this, and I use my right needle again to go in the opposite way. I make the needles switch places and I knit. And then when I knit the next stitch, you can see that you can hardly see anything at all. You cannot see that I have made another stitch. If I were to just pick up the stitch and knit it without twisting it first, you would get this big hole. So we don't want that, so make sure to twist the stitch the way I showed you, or in any other way if you have a better technique, of course. And you repeat this 8 times, evenly distributed on your row, and after that you start knitting pattern number 2. Now my hat measures about 23-24 centimeters from the folding edge here and to the top there. Next I'm going to do is I will knit one whole row where I knit 2 and 2 stitches together like this. It's just like normal knitting, only I pick up 2 stitches here instead of 1. I just pull the yarn through like this. So 2 stitches and 2 stitches, and I continue like this throughout the row. Now I have finished the row where I knitted 2 and 2 stitches together. After that I have knitted 2 more rows, and finally I have knitted 1 row where I again knit 2 and 2 stitches together. So to finish the hat, I knit the last row and I have cut my yarn. So when I knit the last row, I just pull my yarn end through the stitches like this. Just knit it normally, but I just pull the whole thing through. And I keep going until I have done the whole row. And after I'm finished and have no stitches left, I will just pull the yarn end to close the hole in the top of the hat. And here it is. Now I just take the loose yarn end and I pull it through the hole in the top. Let's see, like this, and I just pull it to gather the top of the hat, and later I will fasten this yarn end by sewing it to the inside of the hat. So now all that remains is to fold the hat here at the folding edge. Make sure this part and this part lies flat towards each other, and then just find a needle and sew them together here along the edge. I usually sew exactly underneath the purled edge here, and to the same height on this side all the time to make it even, and then your sewing will not be visible. So I will continue to sew all around the hat, and then it is finished.